I was on a business trip when my neighbor called. She said, "Check your home cameras every Tuesday at 1 p.m. My chest tightened. "What are you trying to say?" She hesitated, then whispered, "I didn't want to believe it, but there's a blue sedan every Tuesday. It's parked there for hours." A long silence fell. Then she said softly, "Please, just check your cameras." And when I did, I froze, because I knew exactly who that person was. And what I discovered next changed everything. Thank you for being here with me. Before we go any further, take a moment to let me know, where are you watching from today? Drop your city or country in the comments. I read them all, and it truly means a lot to see how far these stories reach. Also, just a quick note, this story includes some dramatized and fictional elements for storytelling and educational purposes. Any resemblance to real names or contexts is purely coincidental, but the message behind it is meant to be meaningful and helpful. It's February 7th, 2025. I'm sitting in a coffee shop in Chicago writing this story. But to understand why I'm still alive, I have to go back to the beginning, to a phone call in October 2024. I was on a business trip when my neighbor called. She said, "Check your home cameras every Tuesday at 1 p.m. My chest tightened. "What are you trying to say?" She hesitated, then whispered, "I didn't want to believe it, but there's a blue sedan every Tuesday. It's parked there for hours." A long silence fell. Then she said softly, "Please, just check your cameras." And when I did, I froze, because I knew exactly who that person was. And what I discovered next changed everything. My name is Claire Thompson. I'm 58 years old. I'm a senior auditor with 32 years of experience. My job is to find what others try to hide. I never thought I'd have to use those skills to investigate my own family, but that's exactly what happened. It was a Wednesday morning in early October. I was in Rockford auditing a pharmaceutical company. Around 9 a.m., my phone rang. I looked at the screen, Mrs. Margaret Holloway. Mrs. Holloway was my next-door neighbor. She was 76, widowed, and had lived alone since her husband passed away last year. We had tea together every Sunday afternoon. I answered. "Hi, Mrs. Holloway. Is everything okay?" Her voice trembled. "Claire, dear, can you talk?" "Of course. What's wrong?" She paused for a long moment. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. "I don't know how to say this, but there's a car, a blue sedan, every Tuesday at 1 p.m. It parks in your driveway, and it stays there for 3, sometimes 4 hours. My heart stopped. A blue sedan. Yes. I didn't want to say anything at first. I thought maybe it was a contractor or a friend, but it's been happening every single Tuesday for the past 3 months. And yesterday, I saw someone else arrive too, a white Honda. 10 minutes after the sedan, the person stayed just as long. I couldn't breathe. "Mrs. Holloway, are you sure?" "I'm sure, dear. I watch the street from my window. I know every car that comes and goes. This one doesn't belong." I felt my hands shaking. "Did you see who was driving?" She hesitated again. "No, the windows were tinted. But Claire, I think you should check your security cameras, just to be sure." I hung up. My mind was racing. A blue sedan, every Tuesday at 1 p.m. I was never home on Tuesdays. I worked late every Tuesday reviewing accounts at the office downtown. But my husband Derek was always home on Tuesdays. He'd retired early 2 years ago and spent most of his time at home. And our daughter Alyssa lived 20 minutes away in Naperville. Could it be her white Honda? I opened the security app on my phone. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I scrolled back through the footage. Tuesday, October 1st, 1 p.m. There it was, a blue sedan pulling into my driveway. I zoomed in on the license plate, 7-Delta-Mike-Romeo-3-9-4. I knew that plate. It belonged to my husband's car, but Derek's car was always parked in the garage. Why would it be in the driveway? Unless, I scrolled forward. 10 minutes later, a white Honda pulled in behind the sedan. License plate 6 Alpha Tango 518. That was Alyssa's car. My daughter and my husband. At my house, every Tuesday, for 3 months. While I was at work, I felt something crack inside me. I kept watching the footage. Both cars stayed for 3 hours and 47 minutes. Then they left one after the other. I checked the previous Tuesday. same pattern. The Tuesday before that, same. 12 weeks in a row, 47 separate incidents, all on Tuesdays at 1 p.m. I thought it was an affair. I thought my husband was cheating on me with someone and my daughter knew about it. But I was wrong. What I discovered over the next 2 weeks wasn't just infidelity. It was conspiracy. It was fraud. It was attempted murder. And the target was me. This is the story of how I survived. This is the story of how I fought back. And this is the story of how I sent my own family to prison. Wednesday morning, October 9th, 2024. I was in my hotel room in Rockford with my laptop open. The security footage played on the screen. Tuesday, October 1st, 1 p.m. A blue sedan pulled into my driveway. License plate 7, Delta Mike Romeo 394, Derek's car. 10 minutes later, a white Honda arrived. License plate 6, Alpha Tango 518, Alyssa's car. Both stayed for 3 hours and 47 minutes. I scrolled backward. Tuesday, September 24th, same pattern. Tuesday, September 17th, same pattern. 12 consecutive weeks, 47 incidents, always Tuesdays at 1 p.m., every week while I was at work. I opened Excel and documented everything. Dates, times, duration, license plates, screenshots. This was evidence. Then I remembered something. 6 months earlier, Derek asked me to update our life insurance. He said we needed higher coverage because of rising costs. I hadn't questioned it. I pulled out the policy. Policyholder Claire Thompson. Coverage $3.5 million. Issue date March 15th, 2024. Beneficiary Derek Michael Thompson. I stared at the signature line. It looked like mine. Almost. I compared it to my passport signature. The slant was different, the pressure inconsistent, the loop on the C slightly wider. Someone had forged my name. My hands shook. This wasn't an affair, this was preparation. I opened my bank statements. Transfers to Alyssa's account, $78,000, 13 payments labeled family support. Derek had been funding her quietly. I texted Alyssa, "Hey, sweetie, how are you? Haven't heard from you in a while." She replied 2 minutes later, "I'm good, Mom, just busy with work. Miss you." I stared at the heart emoji. Then I noticed something else. Tuesday, October 8th, 8:47 p.m. last night. Alyssa's car pulled into the driveway. She was alone. She went into the garage. She walked to my car, opened the hood, crouched near the front wheel for 3 minutes. Then she closed the hood, grabbed something from the dashboard, and left. I replayed it 3 times. Why open the hood? Why crouch near the wheel? Why at night? A cold feeling settled in my chest. I called Robert Brennan, my attorney. "Robert, I need to see you today." "What's going on?" "I think my husband is planning something." That afternoon, I met him at Willis Tower, 42nd floor. This is everything. Security footage showing a 12-week pattern, a forged life insurance policy worth $3.5 million, $78,000 transferred to my daughter. And last night, she was in my garage doing something to my car. Robert reviewed the documents. After 20 minutes, his expression darkened. "Claire, this goes beyond fraud. This could be conspiracy to cause serious harm." "I know." "What do you want to do?" "I want to know what they're planning. Then I want to stop it." He leaned back. "You'll need help. I know a private investigator, former FBI Jessica Carver. Set it up. I'll call her now." That evening, I checked into a different hotel, not the one Derek knew about. Tomorrow, I would drive back to Chicago for work. I opened my laptop and created a new document case file Thompson investigation. I typed everything: dates, transactions, footage, patterns. But one image haunted me. Alyssa crouched near my car's front wheel in the dark. What was she doing? Why 3 full minutes? I stared at the frozen frame. My daughter. Doing something to my car, in secret. Whatever they were planning, it was in motion. And tomorrow morning, I would be driving that car. Robert Brennan's law office occupied the 42nd floor of the Willis Tower, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Chicago. I'd been here a dozen times over the years, updating our wills, reviewing contracts, the mundane legal work of a long marriage. Today felt different. I arrived at 2 p.m. sharp carrying a leather portfolio that contained 127 pieces of evidence: bank statements, insurance documents, security footage screenshots, financial transfers, the forged signature analysis I'd completed that morning. Robert stood when I entered, concern etched across his face. We'd known each other for 15 years. He'd never seen me like this. "Claire," he gestured to the chair across from his desk. "Tell me everything." I did. Methodically. The way I'd present findings to a board of directors. I walked him through the timeline, the pattern, the financial trail. I showed him the forged insurance policy, the $78,000 transferred to Alyssa, Derek's mounting debt. Robert's face grew pale as he reviewed each document. When he reached the signature comparison, my real signature beside the forgery, he set the page down carefully. He paused. "Claire, this is conspiracy to commit murder with your own family." "I'm aware." He looked at me for a long moment. "You're very calm." "I'm an auditor, Robert. When I find fraud, I document it. I don't react to it." That was a lie, of course. Inside, I was screaming. But the auditor in me knew that emotions wouldn't help. Evidence would. Strategy would. Robert leaned forward. "We need to file for a protective order immediately, today, and we need to contact the police." "No." "Claire, a protective order alerts them. They'll know I'm onto them. They'll destroy evidence, change their plan, or worse, accelerate it." "That's exactly why we need protection." I met his eyes. "I need to catch them red-handed, all three of them. The evidence has to be ironclad. Conspiracy charges require proof of agreement, intent, and action. Right now, I have circumstantial evidence. I need them to act." Robert sat back, clearly uncomfortable. "You're talking about using yourself as bait. I'm talking about gathering sufficient evidence for prosecution." He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "What do you need from me?" "3 things. First, I need to revise my will immediately." He pulled out a legal pad. "Go on." "Everything goes into an irrevocable trust. Alyssa receives a modest annual income enough to live on, but no lump sum. She never gets control of the principal. Derek is removed entirely." "You're the executor," Robert wrote quickly. "That protects the estate. What else?" "I need you to recommend a private investigator, someone with law enforcement background. I need surveillance background checks and someone who can coordinate with federal authorities if this escalates." "I know someone, former FBI. She's excellent." "Good. And third," I paused, "I need you to keep the insurance policy active." Robert looked up sharply. "Claire, that's the murder weapon. They forged your signature on a $3.5 million. I know what it is. It's also bait. If I cancel it, they'll know something's wrong. I need them to believe they still have something to gain." "You're putting yourself at tremendous risk." "I've been at risk for 7 months, Robert. I just didn't know it." He studied me, then nodded slowly. "I'll have the new will drawn up within an hour. You can sign it today, and I'll call Jessica Carver, the investigator, this afternoon." "Thank you." As I stood to leave, my phone buzzed. A text from Alyssa. "Mom, coffee this week. Just us two. Miss you." I stared at the heart emoji. Sweet. Innocent. The kind of message any mother would be thrilled to receive from her adult daughter. I wondered if she'd already decided to kill me when she sent it. Robert noticed my expression. "What is it?" I turned the phone so he could see the message. "That's your daughter." "That's my daughter." I slipped the phone back into my purse. "Setting up her next move." Jessica Carver's office was in a renovated brownstone in Lincoln Park, far from the gleaming corporate towers downtown. The space felt lived-in case files stacked on a vintage desk, a wall covered with licenses and commendations from her FBI days. She was younger than I expected, maybe early 40s, with sharp eyes that assessed me the moment I walked in. "Mrs. Thompson, Robert spoke highly of you. Claire, please." I set my portfolio on her desk. "I need your help." For the next 20 minutes, I walked her through everything. The security footage, the forged insurance policy, the financial transfers, the pattern of Tuesday visits spanning 3 months. Jessica flipped through the documents, occasionally making notes. When I finished, she sat back and studied me. "You've already done half my job." She tapped the portfolio. "You sure you're not FBI? Corporate fraud investigator. Close enough. Close enough." She pulled out a contract. "Here's what I can do. Full background check on your mystery woman, the owner of that blue sedan. GPS trackers on your husband's and daughter's vehicles, and I can upgrade your home surveillance system with enhanced audio. If they're planning something, I'll catch it. How long? Background check takes 48 to 72 hours. Trackers I can install tonight. Audio by tomorrow. What cost? $15,000. Half up front, half on completion. I pulled out my checkbook. I'll pay the full amount now. Jessica raised an eyebrow. Most people negotiate. I don't have time to negotiate. Friday and Saturday passed in a strange limbo. I stayed at the hotel, working remotely, telling Derek I was on an extended audit in Milwaukee. He didn't question it. Why would he? I traveled for work all the time. Jessica texted updates, trackers installed, audio live, working on background. I watched the GPS dots on my phone. Derek's Mercedes moved between the house and his real estate office. Predictable. Alyssa's Honda made trips. I couldn't quite figure out a pharmacy in Oak Park, a parking garage downtown back to her apartment in Wicker Park. Saturday evening, her car parked at our house for 3 hours. The audio picked up voices, Derek and Alyssa, discussing something in low tones I couldn't quite make out. But the fact they were meeting without me, planning without me, told me everything I needed. Sunday afternoon, Jessica's report arrived in my email, 142 pages. I read every word. Subject: Vanessa Marie Hayes. Age 34. Occupation: pharmaceutical sales representative. MedTech Solutions. Annual income $67,000 plus commission. Debt $103,847. Credit score 542. The details painted a picture of desperation. Student loans she'd defaulted on. Credit cards maxed out. A car lease she was 3 months behind on. But the most interesting detail was buried on page 47. Connection to Alyssa Thompson. Met 4 years ago at Lifetime Fitness Naperville location. Regular workout partners 2020 to 2022. Social media shows frequent contact through 2024. 4 years. Alyssa had known Vanessa for 4 years, long before Derek's affair started. I cross-referenced the financial data. Derek's transfers to Vanessa $15,000 over 6 months, the same time frame as his transfers to Alyssa. This wasn't a simple affair. This was coordination, conspiracy. Vanessa was desperate. Derek had money, or at least access to the insurance payout he thought I didn't know about. And Alyssa was the connection between them. 3 people, 3 motives, 1 target. Me. Sunday evening, I finally went home. Derek was in the living room watching the Bears game, beer in hand. He looked up when I walked in, smiled that easy smile I'd fallen in love with 32 years ago. "Hey, hon, how was Milwaukee?" "Exhausting." I set my bag down, crossed to him, kissed his cheek. He smelled like beer and aftershave, familiar and ordinary. "Glad you're back." "Me too." I sat beside him on the couch, watched him cheer at a touchdown, felt the weight of his arm around my shoulders, and thought I know everything. Every transfer, every lie. Every Tuesday they'd spent in my home planning my death while I was 60 miles away auditing someone else's fraud. I leaned into him, played the role I'd played for 3 decades. The devoted wife. The woman they thought was too trusting, too naive, too distracted by work to notice. The woman whose life insurance policy was worth $3.5 million. Saturday morning, October 12, 2024. Alyssa came to visit. "Hi, Mom. I just wanted to check on you after the accident." "Are you okay?" I hugged her tightly. "I'm fine, sweetie, just shaken up." She brought tea. Chamomile, my favorite. We sat in the living room and talked for an hour. Around 11 a.m., she went upstairs. "I'm just going to grab a few things from my old room. Is that okay?" "Of course, honey." I didn't think anything of it, but I should have. That evening, I went to take my blood pressure medication. I opened the medicine cabinet in the upstairs bathroom. The bottle was gone. I checked the other cabinets, the kitchen, the nightstand, everywhere. It was gone. Only one medication was missing, the most important one. My blood pressure had been high for the past 2 years, 140/95. My doctor had prescribed a daily medication to keep it under control. If I stopped taking it suddenly, my blood pressure would spike within days. Stroke risk, heart attack risk. This wasn't random. This was targeted. Sunday morning, I confronted Alyssa. She came over for brunch. I had invited her pretending nothing was wrong. "Alyssa, did you see my blood pressure medication yesterday? I can't find it anywhere." She looked at me with wide, innocent eyes. No, Mom, I didn't see it. Maybe you misplaced it. I don't misplace things, Alyssa. I'm an auditor. I keep track of everything. She shrugged. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe Dad moved it. I smiled. Maybe, but I knew. After she left, I immediately called my pharmacy. This is Claire Thompson. I need an emergency refill on my blood pressure medication. The bottle went missing. The pharmacist hesitated. Mrs. Thompson, your insurance only covers one refill per month. You just picked this up 2 weeks ago. I understand. I'll pay out of pocket. This is an emergency. All right, it'll be ready in an hour. Then I called Jessica Carver. Jessica, I need you to review the footage from yesterday. Alyssa was here. She went upstairs to her old room. I need to know what she did. Jessica called back 30 minutes later. Claire, I found it. Saturday, 11:17 a.m. Alyssa went upstairs. She entered the bathroom. She opened the medicine cabinet. She took a prescription bottle and put it in her purse. Total time, 45 seconds. I closed my eyes. Send me the footage. Already done. Check your email. I watched the footage 3 times. There was no doubt. My daughter had stolen my medication. That evening, I sat at my desk and opened the case file. I created a new entry. Attack number 1, medication theft. Date October 12th, 2024, 11:17 a.m. Location upstairs bathroom. Perpetrator Alyssa Thompson confirmed via security footage. Item stolen. Blood pressure medication. Lisinopril. 20 milligrams. Intent medical harm via medication denial. Evidence security footage. 45 seconds pharmacy emergency refill request. Risk level medium status first escalation. Monitoring required. I leaned back in my chair. This was no longer just suspicion. This was a pattern. The forged insurance policy. The financial transfers. The brake sabotage. And now stealing my medication. They were trying to harm me. Slowly. Carefully, in ways that could look accidental or natural. I called Jessica again. Jessica, I need you to upgrade the audio surveillance. 24/7, every room. I need to know what they're planning next. She replied immediately. Already done. I upgraded the system this afternoon while you were at the pharmacy. Every room is covered. If they say anything, we'll hear it. I hung up and stared at the case file. 3 attacks so far. Brake sabotage. Medication theft. And I had no doubt there would be more. But now I was ready. I was documenting everything. I was gathering evidence. And when the time came, I would use it. I stayed silent, watching. Monday morning, I sent the text. Coffee, just us two. Alyssa's reply came within 30 seconds. Yes, miss you, Mom. I stared at the heart emoji. Was this her way in for attack number 2? Or was I genuinely still her mother in whatever compartment of her mind hadn't committed to killing me? We met at the Starbucks on Ogden Avenue at 10 a.m. I arrived early, ordered her favorite venti caramel macchiato with extra whip, and sat by the window where Jessica's surveillance van had a clear line of sight. Alyssa walked in looking tired, dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled into a messy bun. She hugged me tight and I felt her hands shake. Hey, sweetie, you okay? Yeah, just been a rough couple weeks. She took the coffee I'd ordered, smiled. You remembered? Of course I remembered. We sat, made small talk about her work, my work, the weather. I let her settle. Then I leaned forward. Alyssa, I need to ask you something, and I need the truth. Her face went careful. Okay. The money Dad's been giving you, $78,000 over 6 months. What's it for? All the color drained from her face. Mom, The truth, Alyssa. She broke, just collapsed into tears, hands covering her face. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I waited. It's gambling. Her voice was barely a whisper. Started in college. Online poker, then sports betting. I thought I could control it, but I couldn't. It got worse after graduation. I'm $95,000 in debt. $95,000. The number Jessica had found. Hearing it from Alyssa's mouth made it real. How much does Dad know? Everything. He's been helping me pay it off, $78,000 so far, but I still owe $17,000 to people you don't want to owe money to. Loan sharks. She nodded, wiping her eyes. They've threatened me. Showed me a gun. Said if I don't pay by Thanksgiving, She couldn't finish. I reached across the table, took her hand. It was shaking. Why didn't you come to me? I was ashamed. And Dad said you'd be so disappointed that it would break your heart. Dad said, of course he did. Keep Alyssa isolated, keep her desperate, keep her compliant. Alyssa, I squeezed her hand. I'm going to help you. Mom, you can't. It's too much money. I'm going to give you $20,000. That clears the debt and gives you a buffer. But you have to promise me 2 things. No more gambling, and you get help. Real help. Therapy, Gamblers, Anonymous, whatever it takes. She stared at me. You'd do that? You're my daughter. Of course I would. She broke down again, sobbing into her hands. Thank you. God, Mom, thank you. I promise. I swear I'll get help. I held her while she cried, rubbed her back, whispered that it would be okay, and thought $20,000 to see where it goes. That afternoon, I transferred the money. Texted her, transferred the money, sweetheart. Love you. Her reply, love you too, Mom, thank you so much. 10 minutes later, Jessica sent a text, a screenshot from the GPS tracker on Alyssa's car. She'd driven straight from the coffee shop to an apartment building in Lincoln Park. Vanessa Hayes' address. Stayed 45 minutes. Not to a loan shark, not to a bank, to Vanessa. I sat in my car in the pharmacy parking lot where I just picked up my emergency blood pressure refill and stared at the screenshot. $20,000, less than an hour to reach Vanessa's hands. My phone buzzed again. Alyssa's text, love you, Mom. I looked at the heart emoji, at the words, love you. How does someone type that? How does someone hug their mother, cry in her arms, accept her money, say, I love you, and then drive straight to the woman helping plan her murder? I didn't have an answer, but I had evidence. Tuesday passed quietly, too quietly. I worked from home, watched the GPS trackers, waited for the next move. It came at 8:47 p.m., a text from Alyssa. Hey, Mom, can I stop by real quick? Left my phone charger in the guest room. I stared at the message. The guest room she hadn't stayed in for months. Sure, sweetheart, door's unlocked. The garage camera showed her arriving 9 minutes later. She walked straight to the garage. Not the guest room, the garage. She was there for 14 minutes. When she left, she didn't come inside to say goodbye. Wednesday morning, I left for Rockford at 6:30 for a client meeting, 90 miles northwest. The roads were clear, the sun just rising over the flat Illinois farmland. I'd been driving 45 minutes when it happened. I-90 west approaching the exit ramp. Speed 70 miles per hour, a gentle downhill slope. I touched the brake pedal. Nothing. I pressed harder. The pedal went straight to the floor. No resistance, no response. My speed stayed at 70. Ahead of me, traffic was slowing for the exit, red brake lights blooming like warnings I couldn't heed. I pumped the brakes. Nothing. Slammed them. Nothing. No. I downshifted. The engine screamed in protest, but the car began to slow. I yanked the emergency brake. The rear wheels locked and the car fishtailed. I fought the wheel, steering toward the shoulder. The guardrail rushed up. Metal screamed as my car scraped along its sparks, flying. The noise was deafening. Finally, the car shuddered to a stop. I sat there, hands locked on the wheel, shaking so hard I couldn't let go. And then I broke. Just completely broke. Sobbing, gasping 35 years of control, shattering on a highway shoulder at 7:15 in the morning. They'd really tried to kill me. Officer Bradley arrived 20 minutes after I called 911. He was young, maybe 30, with kind eyes that went hard when he inspected my car. Ma'am, your brake line's been cut. What? Not all the way through, partial cut, deliberate. He crouched by the front wheel, took photos with his phone. See here, someone cut about 3/4 of the way through. It's calculated. The line holds long enough to get you on the highway, then fails under pressure. My hands were still shaking. How long would that take? 30 to 60 minutes of driving. Long enough that you'd be at speed when it happened. Long enough that a crash would look like an accident. He wrote up a report. I kept my explanation vague. Auditor possible retaliation from an old case, didn't want to speculate. He gave me his card and called a tow truck. I called Jessica. Checked the garage footage. Last night, 8:47 p.m. 30 seconds later, Alyssa, she's there for 14 minutes, alone. Send it to me. I called Robert. He agreed to pick me up, no questions asked. Then I called Frank DeLuca, the mechanic Jessica had recommended. former military. He met us at the impound lot. He spent 10 minutes under my car, then emerged wiping grease from his hands. Professional job, clean cut. Whoever did this knew what they were doing. They researched this. Can you document it? Already took 50 photos. That evening, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Derek called first. Claire, oh my God, I just heard. Are you okay? I'm coming to get you right now. I'm fine. Robert already picked me up. Are you sure I can be there in an hour? Derek, I'm fine. I just need to rest. I hung up before he could argue. 30 seconds later, Alyssa called. Her voice was panicked, breathless. Mom, oh my God, Mom, I heard about the accident. Are you okay? I would die if something happened to you. I'm coming over right now. Alyssa, I'm not home. I'm at a hotel. I'm fine. Which hotel? I'll come there. I need to rest, sweetheart. I'll call you tomorrow. I ended the call and stared at my phone. Derek's concern, Alyssa's panic, both of them desperate to see me, to know where I was, to assess the damage. You did this, I thought, looking at Alyssa's name on my screen. You went into my garage at 8:47 p.m. and cut my brake line 3/4 of the way through. You calculated the time it would take to fail. You researched how to make it look like an accident. And now you're calling me crying, saying you'd die if something happened to me. I opened my laptop and added another entry to my case file. Attack 2, brake line sabotage, attempted vehicular homicide, subject Alyssa Thompson, risk level high. They're escalating. I checked into a different hotel Wednesday night far off I-294. I couldn't sleep. The next morning, I called Robert Brennan. Robert, I need someone in law enforcement, someone who can help me with a serious case. What kind of case? Conspiracy, insurance fraud, attempted harm, and I have evidence. Thursday, October 17th, 2024, 2 p.m. I sat in Detective Lieutenant Sarah Brennan's office at the Cook County Sheriff's Office Major Crimes Division. I placed my leather portfolio on her desk. 147 pieces of evidence, security footage, financial records, forged insurance documents, private investigator reports, police reports on brake sabotage, audio recordings. She read carefully. After 15 minutes, she looked up. Mrs. Thompson, in 20 years as a detective, I have never seen a civilian build a case file this detailed. I'm an auditor. I know how to follow evidence. She nodded. We have grounds to open a criminal investigation. Conspiracy, attempted harm, insurance fraud, forgery, sabotage. But there's a problem. My chest tightened. What problem? The listening devices and GPS trackers your private investigator installed were placed without a court order. Defense attorneys will argue the evidence was obtained illegally. They'll move to suppress it. The judge may agree. So everything Jessica found is useless. Not useless, vulnerable. We need to legitimize it, she explained. What you've gathered gives us probable cause. The forged insurance policy, financial transfers, brake sabotage, those are solid. But audio recordings of private conversations are in a legal gray area. What do? We get a court order. I'll petition a judge for a surveillance order under exigent circumstances. You've survived 2 attempts. There's clear danger. A judge will grant it. She leaned forward. Once I have that order, anything we record is admissible, clean, unquestionable. But you stay quiet. Don't confront them. If they suspect, you know they'll stop talking. How long? I'll file this afternoon. Emergency orders can be granted within hours. What happens after? We set up a controlled scenario. You go home, act vulnerable, give them an opportunity to try again. You'll be wired. We'll have a tactical team within 1 minute. The moment they confess on tape under a legal court order, we move in. Friday, October 18th. Detective Brennan called at 9 a.m. We have the order. Judge signed it an hour ago. Everything from this point forward is legally protected evidence. Relief flooded through me. Meet me this afternoon. Assistant State's Attorney Michael Torres wants to review the case. That afternoon, I sat across from Brennan and Torres in a conference room. Torres reviewed my file slowly. After 30 minutes, he looked up. This is one of the most well-documented conspiracy cases I've seen. The forged signature is prosecutable. The brake sabotage is attempted harm. The financial transfers establish motive. But we need the final piece. What piece? A confession. We need them to say on tape that they plan to harm you and why. We need them to discuss the insurance money. I can get that. Torres leaned forward. You understand the risk you're putting yourself in immediate danger. I understand. You're willing to wear a recording device. Yes, Brennan laid out the plan. We'll equip you with a body camera and microphone. You'll have a panic bracelet. A tactical team will be within 1 minute. If anything goes wrong, press the button 3 times or say I need some fresh air. We breach within 30 seconds. She continued, go home. Act shaken. Let them think you're vulnerable. Create an opportunity. When they try again, we'll be listening. Legally. The moment they confess, we take them down. When do we start? This weekend. Saturday and Sunday, you train with our technical specialist. Sunday night, you go home. You set the trap. We finish this. That evening, Brennan called again. The surveillance order is activated. From this moment forward, every word they say is legal evidence. You're protected. We're ready. I stared out at the Chicago skyline. Thank you, Detective. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when they're in handcuffs. I opened my case file. From this moment forward, everything they did would be used against them. And I was ready. Friday evening, October 18th, 2024. I came home for the first time since Tuesday. Derek was watching football. He stood when he saw me. Honey, you're home. How are you feeling? I walked slowly as if still shaken. I'm okay, just tired. The accident really scared me. He hugged me. I'm so glad you're safe. I leaned into him, playing a frightened wife. Saturday morning, Alyssa visited with flowers and cookies. Mom, I've been so worried about you. We sat in the kitchen drinking tea. I've been thinking, maybe it's time to retire early. This accident made me realize life is too short. I want to spend more time with family. Alyssa's eyes lit up. Really? That's amazing, Mom. But I saw panic flash across her face. If I retired, I'd be home all the time. Derek's affair would be impossible to hide. Later, Alyssa asked, have you thought about your will recently? I smiled. Oh, I updated it a few months ago. Everything's taken care of. That was a lie. I'd changed my will with Robert Brennan. Everything now went into an irrevocable trust. Alyssa would receive only income payments. Derek got nothing. But they didn't need to know yet. Sunday afternoon, I went upstairs to nap. But I was listening. Through Jessica's audio device, I heard every word in the kitchen. Derek was on the phone. Vanessa's voice came through on speaker. Vanessa, the brake thing failed. She survived. Police have a report. We can't try mechanical again. Derek, what do we do? Vanessa, something untraceable. I have pharmaceutical-grade sedatives, midazolam. It mimics natural heart failure, especially after a traumatic accident. No autopsy catches it unless they're looking. They won't be. Alyssa. How do we give it to her? Vanessa. Wine. Family dinner. She drinks. 20 minutes later, she feels dizzy, lies down, breathing slows, heart stops. You call 911. They see a 58-year-old woman who survived a car crash, stress-induced heart failure, natural causes. Derek hesitated. Are you sure? Vanessa. It's foolproof, but it has to be this weekend. She's retiring. If she's home all the time, everything falls apart. Now or never. Alyssa, what do we do after? Vanessa. Move her to the bedroom. Make it look like she was resting. When Derek calls 911, act devastated. The examiner sees what we want. Derek's voice shook. The insurance money. Vanessa, $3.5 million, 30 days after death certificate. Split 1.2 for Alyssa, 500,000 for me, 1.8 for Derek. Vanessa, Sunday dinner. Make it happen. I lay still, heart pounding. They were planning to end my life tonight. I texted Detective Brennan. Tonight, 7 p.m., sedative in wine. Ready? She replied, position by 6 p.m. Stay calm. Don't drink. Let them confess. We move in. Sunday morning, I called Alyssa. Come for dinner tonight, just us 3. I want to talk about retirement. Her voice was cheerful. Perfect mom, 6:30. I stared at my reflection. Tonight, I'd sit with my husband and daughter. They'd try to end my life. I'd let them think they were succeeding. Because I needed their confession. 8 months, Derek. You planned to harm me for 8 months. It took me 1 week to stop everything. Tonight, it would end. At 5 p.m., I visited Mrs. Holloway. She hugged me. Be careful tonight, dear. I whispered, you saved my life, Margaret, that first call. She held my hands. Now you're saving your own. I walked back outside. October air was cold. Through my window, Derek set the table. 3 plates, 3 wine glasses. I touched my collar where the camera would be. This was it. Tonight justice would be served. Sunday, October 20th, 2024, 5 p.m., 2 hours before dinner. I stood in Mrs. Holloway's living room. Through the window, my house looked ordinary, peaceful. No one passing by would know it was about to become a crime scene. Detective Lieutenant Sarah Brennan was setting up equipment. Deputy Martinez tested radio frequencies. 3 houses down, a white van disguised as a cable repair vehicle monitored every signal. Nina Rodriguez stepped forward carrying a small black case. She was in her 30s, former military with steady hands and calm eyes. "This will take about 15 minutes," she said. She opened the case. Inside were 3 devices. First, the camera. This clips to your collar. It's the size of a dime. The lens is hidden inside what looks like a decorative button. She attached it carefully to my blouse. Video check. Detective Brennan glanced at her laptop. Clear image. Audio good. Next, the microphone. "This will be taped to your sternum. It picks up voices within 20 feet, even whispers." Nina pressed the cold metal device against my chest and secured it with medical tape. I felt it against my skin. Cold, unyielding, a constant reminder that this wasn't just an investigation on paper anymore. This was real. This was dangerous. "Breathe normally," Nina said. "Don't touch it. If something feels wrong, cough twice and we'll check the feed." Finally, the panic bracelet. It looks like jewelry, but if you press this button 3 times in quick succession, our tactical team enters within 30 seconds. She fastened it around my wrist. Only use it if you're in immediate physical danger. Otherwise, let them talk. We need their full confession on tape. Nina stepped back. "Now we test everything, say something." I spoke clearly. "This is Claire Thompson, testing audio." Detective Brennan checked her screen. "Perfect. We're receiving everything." Nina nodded. "Now the panic signal. Say the code phrase." I took a breath. I need some fresh air. Immediately, Deputy Martinez's radio crackled. "Code phrase received. Signal clear." Detective Brennan looked at me. "If you say that phrase or press the button, we breach within 30 seconds. No hesitation." She continued. "One last review. You go home at 6:28. Act normal. If they offer wine, do not drink it. Use the diversion technique we practiced. Pour it into the plant when they're not looking. Then pretend to feel dizzy. Lie on the couch. Pretend to pass out. Let them believe it worked. That's when they'll talk freely." I nodded. "I understand." Assistant State's Attorney Michael Torres spoke. "The moment they verbally confirm intent, motive, and coordination, we have enough to prosecute. But if you feel unsafe at any point, trigger the signal immediately." Detective Brennan added. 6 officers are in position, 2 in the van monitoring live feed, 2 on foot patrol disguised as joggers, 1 inside this house with direct sight to your front door, 1 behind your property covering the rear exit. She met my eyes. "We've got you covered, Mrs. Thompson." I looked around the room at all of them. "Thank you, all of you." Detective Brennan rested a hand on my shoulder. "What you're doing tonight takes extraordinary courage. Most people wouldn't be able to stay this calm." I replied, "I'm an auditor. I've spent 32 years following evidence trails. This is just another case." She gave a tight smile. "Another case where your life is on the line." "Yes," I said, "but I won't let them win." At 6:15, I walked next door one last time. Mrs. Holloway wrapped me in a tight embrace. Her hands were shaking. "Be careful, dear, please." I whispered, "You saved my life, Margaret. That phone call saved me." She squeezed my hands. "Now finish it." I walked back outside. The October air was cold. The sun dipped low behind the houses. Through my kitchen window, I saw Derek pouring wine into 3 glasses. Then he reached into his pocket, a small vial. He glanced around, then emptied it into the glass on the left. My glass. I steadied my breathing. I adjusted the camera on my collar. I felt the microphone cold against my chest. I touched the panic bracelet on my wrist. Detective Brennan's voice came through a small earpiece Nina had placed in my ear. "Mrs. Thompson, it's 6:28. You know what to do. We're right behind you." I took one last deep breath. Then I opened the front door. "Honey, I'm home." Sunday, October 20th, 2024, 6:30 p.m. I walked into the kitchen. Derek stood at the stove, stirring marinara. The smell of lasagna filled the house. On the counter sat 3 wine glasses, red wine already poured. Derek looked up and smiled. "Hey, honey, you're just in time." I smiled back. "Smells amazing." Behind that smile, I saw a threat. The doorbell rang. "That must be Alyssa," Derek said. I opened the door. Alyssa stood there with a small bouquet. "Hi, Mom." She hugged me tightly. I hugged her back, the cold metal of the camera brooch pressing against my chest. Every word, every movement, the Cook County Sheriff's Office was recording it all. We sat at the table. Derek raised his glass, to family, to the good days ahead. Alyssa lifted hers, to Mom. I studied the wine before me. This was the contaminated glass. I knew it. The detectives knew it. I couldn't let them suspect. Detective Brennan had trained me for hours. Do not let the glass touch your lips. Do not swallow anything. The substance can absorb through the mouth in seconds. I lifted the glass and let it brush my lips without drinking. Then I set it down and smiled. "This wine is delicious." Derek watched me, then nodded, satisfied. 5 minutes later, Alyssa went to the kitchen for water. This was my chance. I dropped my napkin. "Sorry." As I bent, I poured most of the wine into the potted plant beside the table. 3 seconds, that was all. When Alyssa returned, my glass was nearly empty. Derek glanced at it and smiled. "You drank that fast. You know I love red wine." We ate. Derek checked his watch. 7:05, then 7:10. The substance should have worked by now. I was still talking, smiling. At 7:15, I stood slowly, bracing myself. "I'm feeling dizzy. I need to lie down." They exchanged a glance. "Do you want help to the bedroom?" Derek asked. "I'll rest on the couch." I lay down, closed my eyes, slowed my breathing, and went limp. From the kitchen, Derek whispered, "Is she out?" "I don't know," Alyssa said. "Vanessa said 10 to 20 minutes. It's been almost an hour." "Maybe she didn't drink enough." She drank the whole glass. I saw her. Alyssa knelt beside me, checking my pulse. "It's weak. Breathing is slow." She lifted my eyelids, shined her phone. Pupils dilated. "She's unconscious." "Good," Derek said. "Call Vanessa." Alyssa put the phone on speaker. Vanessa answered. "Is it done?" "It's done," Derek said. "She's out." "Check her pupils." Dilated, no response. "Move her to the bedroom," Vanessa said. "On the bed like a nap. On the couch raises questions. And then, wait 20 minutes. Call 911. Say she won't wake up. Stress-related heart failure. No suspicion." Alyssa whispered, "The insurance." 3.5 million, Vanessa said. "Derek gets 1.8. You get 1.2. I get 500,000. Alyssa frowned. "Why do I get more?" "Because you're her daughter," Vanessa said. "No one questions that." Derek nodded. "All right." Dad, Alyssa said carry Mom to the bedroom. Derek bent to lift me. I opened my eyes and looked straight at him. He stumbled back. "How are you?" "I didn't drink the wine," I said calmly. Alyssa went pale. "Mom." "Did you hear?" "Everything." Vanessa screamed through the phone. "Hang up." I opened my coat and showed the camera. The Cook County Sheriff's Office recorded all of this. Derek shook. "You planned this." 8 months, I said. "You planned to harm me for 8 months. It took me 1 week to stop you." My heart pounded, but my voice stayed steady as I waited, knowing the moment justice arrived would finally end their control over my life forever, tonight, here. The front door burst open. "Cook County Sheriff, hands up now. If you're still here with me, drop any number from 1 to 10 in the comments so I know you're staying. And tell me this, if you were lying there, hearing your own family plan your death, would you keep pretending a little longer to hear everything? Or would you stand up right now and end it? One quick note before we continue. Parts of the next story are dramatized and may not be entirely factual. If this isn't something you want to hear, you're free to stop watching here. 6 deputies stormed into the house, weapons drawn. Cook County Sheriff, hands where we can see them, on the ground now. Derek raised his hands, trembling. Alyssa screamed. No, this isn't on the ground." Derek dropped to his knees, then lay flat on the floor. Alyssa hesitated, tears streaming down her face. Mom, please." A deputy grabbed her arm and pulled her down. Within seconds, both of them were handcuffed. Detective Lieutenant Sarah Brennan walked in wearing a tactical vest. She looked at me. Mrs. Thompson, are you all right? I nodded, my voice steady. I'm fine. She turned to Derek and Alyssa. Derek Thompson, Alyssa Thompson. You are under arrest for conspiracy to cause serious harm, attempted harm with intent and insurance fraud. She read them their Miranda rights. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided for you. Derek was sobbing. Claire, please. I didn't want this. It was Vanessa. She convinced me. I never wanted to hurt you. You have the right to remain silent, the deputy repeated firmly. Alyssa turned to me, her face streaked with tears. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was desperate. I didn't know what else to do. The debt, the pressure. I looked at her, my voice cold. You cut my brake line, Alyssa. You tried to harm me on the highway at 70 miles per hour. She shook her head frantically. It wasn't supposed to be like that. Vanessa said it would be quick, that you wouldn't feel anything, that it would look like an accident. Stop talking, the deputy snapped, but it was too late. Every word was being recorded. Another deputy entered holding up a phone. Detective, we have Vanessa Hayes on the line. She's still connected. Detective Brennan took the phone. Ms. Hayes, this is Detective Lieutenant Sarah Brennan with the Cook County Sheriff's Office. We have a warrant for your arrest. Officers are en route to your location right now. There was silence on the other end. Then Vanessa's voice ice cold. You recorded everything. Yes. And you have enough to prosecute. More than enough. Vanessa laughed bitterly. Well played, Mrs. Thompson. Well played. The line went dead. Derek was led out first, still sobbing. Alyssa looked back at me one last time as the deputies guided her toward the door. She mouthed the words, Mom, please. I looked away. She was taken outside into the waiting patrol car. Detective Brennan approached me. Mrs. Thompson will need you to come to the station tomorrow to give a formal statement. But for tonight, you should stay somewhere safe. Is there anyone you can call? I nodded. Mrs. Holloway, my neighbor. Good. Deputy Martinez will escort you. I looked around the house. The dining table still had the lasagna, the wine glasses, the flowers Alyssa had brought. It looked like a normal family dinner, but it wasn't. It was a crime scene. I walked into the kitchen. The wine bottle was still on the counter. Detective Brennan followed me. We'll need to test that. I picked up the bottle carefully and handed it to her. Vanessa said it was a sedative, something that would stop my heart and look like natural causes. She nodded grimly. We'll run a full toxicology analysis. I stared at the bottle. This was supposed to end my life. This was supposed to be the last thing I ever drank. But I was still here. I survived. I fought back. And I won. Detective Brennan placed a hand on my shoulder. Mrs. Thompson, what you did tonight took incredible courage. Most people wouldn't have been able to stay that calm. I looked at her. I'm an auditor detective. I've spent 32 years finding fraud, uncovering lies, and following evidence. This was just another case. She smiled slightly. Another case where the target was your own life. I nodded. Yes, but I wasn't going to let them win. That night, I stayed at Mrs. Holloway's house. She made me tea and held my hand while I cried. You're safe now, dear, she whispered. You're safe. But I wasn't thinking about safety. I was thinking about the trial. I was thinking about the evidence. I was thinking about justice. 2 weeks later, Vanessa Hayes was arrested at her apartment in Lincoln Park. She didn't resist. She didn't say a word. She was charged with conspiracy to cause serious harm, distribution of controlled substances with intent to harm, and insurance fraud. 3 months later, the trial began, and I was ready. I stood up from the couch, steady, calm. Alyssa's face went from confusion to horror. Mom, how are you? Awake. I finished. I've been awake the whole time. Derek stepped forward, hands raised, like he could somehow undo what I'd heard. Claire, I can explain. Explain forging my signature, cutting my brake lines, poisoning my wine. It's not what you think. I pointed to the brooch on my collar. Hidden camera. I touched my chest. Wire. The sheriff's office has recorded every word. Alyssa stumbled backward. Derek's phone was still in his hand, Vanessa on the line. Vanessa, he said into it, voice shaking. She knows. I crossed the room and took the phone from him. Ms. Hayes, this is Claire Thompson. The sheriff's office has recorded this call. There's a warrant for your arrest. They know where you live." The line went dead. I set the phone down and looked at my daughter. "Mom," Alyssa said, desperation flooding her voice. "I was scared. I was desperate. The debts. I gave you $20,000. The debts were paid, and you still tried to kill me that same night." My voice was cold, steady. "This isn't desperation, Alyssa. This is greed." I touched the brooch. "Detective Brennan, I have the confession." 3 seconds later, the front door exploded inward. "Sheriff's office, hands up, nobody move." 6 agents flooded into my living room, weapons-drawn voices shouting commands. Derek's hands shot up. He was crying, trembling, collapsing into himself. Alyssa ran. She made it 3 steps toward the kitchen before an agent took her down. She hit the floor hard, screaming, fighting, as they pulled her arms behind her back. "Derek Thompson, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, insurance, fraud, wire fraud, and attempted murder." The handcuffs clicked shut. "Alyssa Thompson, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, and assault with a deadly weapon." More handcuffs, more clicks. Brennan stepped through the doorway, his eyes meeting mine. "Mrs. Thompson, are you all right?" "I'm fine." Alyssa was on her knees, handcuffed an agent holding her arm. She looked up at me, tears streaming. "Mom, please, I didn't mean it. Vanessa manipulated me. You cut my brake lines," I said quietly. "You called me a body." Her face changed. The desperation vanished. What replaced it was something uglier. "You were never there," she screamed. "You chose your job over me. That money was mine. I deserved it for being abandoned my whole life." The words hit like a slap. For a moment, just a moment, I felt it. The guilt, the years of business trips and late nights and missed recitals. "Maybe I wasn't there enough," I said. My voice cracked. "But I never tried to kill you." I looked at Brennan. "Get her out of my house." They pulled Alyssa to her feet, led her toward the door. She was still screaming, thrashing against the agents holding her. Derek was being led out too. He stopped in the doorway, turned back. "Claire, I did love you once." I didn't turn around. "I don't believe you." The door closed behind them. And then I was alone. I stood in the living room where I'd almost died, looked at the dining table where we'd shared our last meal, the couch where I'd lain recording their conspiracy. I walked to the kitchen, picked up the wine glass, the one Derek had poisoned, stared at the dark red liquid that was supposed to kill me. Then I poured it down the sink and watched it disappear. I didn't stay in that house. I walked next door to Mrs. Holloway's, knocked softly. She opened the door and saw my face. Her arms opened wide. And for the first time since this nightmare began, since the phone call at the airport, since the security footage, since the forged signature and the stolen medication and the severed brake line, I let myself cry. Margaret held me while I sobbed, didn't ask questions, didn't say anything, just held me. And that was enough. 3 months later, I sat in a federal courtroom and watched my daughter get sentenced to 20 years in prison. She looked at me once. I looked away. The trial had begun in December. The prosecution presented 127 pieces of evidence, security footage, audio recordings, financial records, forensic reports from my car, from the wine bottle, from the forged insurance policy. I testified for 5 hours, answered every question calmly, factually, walked the jury through the timeline, the phone call from Mrs. Holloway, the 47 incidents I'd logged, the medication theft, the brake line, the dinner. The prosecutor asked me, "Mrs. Thompson, the defendant is your daughter. How do you feel about testifying against her?" I looked at Alyssa. She was staring at the table, wouldn't meet my eyes. I said, that I'm doing the right thing. The defense attorneys tried everything. Alyssa's lawyer argued diminished capacity due to gambling addiction, claimed she'd been manipulated by older, more sophisticated conspirators. Derek's lawyer claimed coercion, said Vanessa had controlled him, threatened him, forced his participation. Vanessa's lawyer argued the evidence was circumstantial, no direct proof of intent. But then the prosecution played the audio, all of it. Vanessa's voice giving instructions on how to fake a natural death. Derek and Alyssa discussing the insurance payout, the brake line confession, the medication theft, the money split argument. And finally, Alyssa's voice cold and clear, "We have a body to move." The jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they came back, the verdict was unanimous. Derek Thompson guilty on all counts. Alyssa Thompson guilty on all counts. Vanessa Hayes guilty on all counts. Sentencing came 2 weeks later, January 15, 2025. The judge was a woman in her 60s, gray-haired with sharp eyes that had seen too many criminals try to justify the unjustifiable. The conspiracy to murder a wife and mother for financial gain, she said, demonstrates an extreme disregard for human life. The defendants planned this crime for 8 months. They made 2 previous attempts on Mrs. Thompson's life, and they have shown no remorse. She looked at Derek first. Derek Thompson, 18 years in federal prison. Derek's head dropped. His lawyer put a hand on his shoulder. Then she turned to Alyssa. Alyssa Thompson, the court recognizes your age 23 years old. Ordinarily, youth might be a mitigating factor, but your actions demonstrate sophisticated planning, deliberate execution, and a complete absence of empathy. You targeted your own mother. You cut her brake lines. You called her a body. The judge's voice hardened. There will be no mercy. 20 years in federal prison. Alyssa's face crumpled. She started crying. Finally, Vanessa. Vanessa Hayes. You orchestrated this conspiracy. You provided the means and method. You manipulated 2 people into committing murder. 22 years in federal prison. The judge's gavel came down. These are federal sentences. There is no parole. No parole. That meant they'd serve at least 85% of their time. Alyssa would be 43 when she got out. Derek would be 79. Vanessa would be 56. As the guards led Alyssa away, she turned back, looked at me in the gallery. Her face was streaked with tears, her eyes desperate. She mouthed 2 words, "Mom, please." I looked away, looked straight ahead at the empty judge's bench, and I didn't look back. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived at my new apartment. A prison envelope. Alyssa's handwriting neat and careful on the front. I sat at my kitchen table and stared at it for 10 minutes. Then I stood up, walked to my office, and fed it into the paper shredder. I didn't read it. I didn't need to know what it said. She'd had her chance to speak to me. At the dinner table where she'd tried to poison me. In the living room where she'd discussed moving my body. In the courtroom where she'd claimed to be a victim. I was done listening. I was done being her mother. The shredder whirred. The envelope disappeared into thin strips of paper, and I walked away. October 2025. 1 year later, I stood in front of a support group at a crisis center in downtown Chicago and said the words I never thought I'd say out loud. My name is Claire, and my daughter tried to murder me for insurance money. 12 faces looked back at me. Some nodded, some looked away. All of them understood. I'm a forensic accountant. I continued. 1 year ago, I discovered my husband's affair. My daughter was helping him. Together with his mistress, they planned to kill me for $3.5 million. I took a breath, kept going. They tried 3 times. They stole my medication. They cut my brake lines. They poisoned my wine. A woman in the front row pressed her hand to her mouth. Now they're in federal prison. My husband got 18 years. My daughter got 20. The mistress got 22. I looked around the room, saw pain, saw recognition, saw people who'd been where I was. I'm telling you this because I want you to know something. You can survive betrayal. You can fight back. You can win. I paused. Let that sink in. But winning isn't the end. Healing is a process. There are days I'm angry, days I'm so sad I can barely get out of bed, days I just exist, go through the motions, feel nothing. I saw heads nodding. The point is, keep moving forward. Document everything, every text, every email, every conversation. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. And don't be afraid to ask for help. When I sat down, 3 people came up to thank me, to tell me their stories, to ask questions. This was why I came every Sunday, to this room, to these people, because if I could help one person avoid what I went through, it was worth it. Later that afternoon, I had coffee with Margaret. We'd made it a tradition. Every Sunday after the support group, I'd walk to her house. She'd make tea. I'd bring cookies. We'd sit in her living room and talk about nothing important. Another letter from Alyssa, she asked, pouring Earl Grey into flowered cups. 3rd one this month. I took a cookie from the plate. I don't read them. Robert checks to make sure there are no legal issues, then he destroys them. Will you ever forgive her? I was quiet for a long time, watched steam rise from my tea. I don't know, I said finally. Maybe never. Right now I need distance. Margaret reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Forgiveness is for you, not for her. You'll know when you're ready, or if you ever are. Thank you, I said, for calling me that day, for saving my life. Oh, sweetheart. Her eyes filled with tears. That's what neighbors do. But she wasn't just my neighbor anymore. She was family. After the support group meeting, a young woman approached me in the parking lot. Excuse me, Claire. I turned. She was maybe 30 with dark circles under her eyes and hands that wouldn't stop shaking. My name is Sarah. My husband, he's forging my signature on loan documents, credit cards, a second mortgage on our house. I don't know what to do. I recognized that look, the fear, the confusion, the desperate need for someone to believe her. First, I said gently, you did the right thing by recognizing it. That's the hardest part. I gestured to a bench. Sit down. Tell me everything. She pulled out her phone, showed me photos of documents, statements, forms with signatures that looked like hers but weren't quite right. That's evidence, I told her. Have you contacted an attorney yet? She shook her head. I pulled out my notebook, the same one I'd used to document my own case. Okay, let's start from the beginning. For the next hour, I listened. I took notes. I asked questions. I gave her Robert's number. I told her about Jessica Carver, the private investigator. I explained how to document everything, how to protect herself, how to build a case. And as I watched her write down names and numbers, something settled in my chest. I couldn't save my daughter, but maybe I could save someone else's mother, someone else's wife, someone else's life. I'm 59 years old now. I live in a small apartment downtown. I go to therapy twice a month. I attend the support group every Sunday. I have coffee with Margaret every week. I don't talk to my daughter. I don't visit her. I don't read her letters. Maybe someday I will. Maybe someday I'll be ready. But not today. Today, I'm helping Sarah build her case. I'm mentoring 2 other women through their own investigations. I'm consulting with attorneys on financial fraud cases. I survived. I fought back. I won. And now I'm helping others do the same. That's enough. That's more than enough. That's everything. Looking back on everything that happened, I realize this isn't just my story. It's one of countless family drama stories that unfold every day, stories of betrayal, survival, and the strength we didn't know we had. If you take anything from what I've shared, let it be this. Don't be like me. Don't ignore the red flags. Don't dismiss your instincts. Don't assume that family loyalty is a shield against greed or desperation. I spent 35 years building a career, raising a daughter, trusting a husband. I thought work ethic and financial stability would protect us. But I was so focused on providing that I missed the warning signs. I missed the distance growing between Alyssa and me. I missed the resentment building in Derek's heart. These family drama stories don't start with poison and break lines. They start with small cracks, unresolved anger, mounting debt, unmet expectations. By the time I recognized the danger, I was already their target. The lessons I learned. First, trust your instincts. When Mrs. Holloway called me that day, something in her voice told me this wasn't a false alarm. Like the grandma stories we hear about elderly neighbors who sense trouble, Margaret saved my life because she trusted what she saw. Second, document everything. In family drama stories like mine, evidence is survival. Every screenshot, every recording, every witness becomes your lifeline when everyone you love turns into a conspirator. Third, you can't save people who don't want to be saved. I gave Alyssa $20,000. I offered therapy. I gave her chances. But she'd chosen greed over grace. Sometimes the hardest truth is accepting that love isn't enough. Fourth, forgiveness is personal. As Margaret, whose wisdom rivals the best grandma stories, told me, forgiveness is for you, not for her. Maybe someday I'll forgive Alyssa. Maybe I won't. God knows my heart, and He knows I'm trying to heal in my own time. Faith doesn't mean accepting betrayal. It means trusting that justice and mercy will find their balance even when I can't see it yet. Finally, build your own family. The grandma stories worth telling are about neighbors who become angels, like Margaret opening her door, holding me while I cried, becoming the family I needed when my own fell apart. If you're living your own family drama right now, know this: you are stronger than you think. You can survive betrayal. You can fight back. You can rebuild. But you have to start by trusting yourself. Final note: this story contains dramatized storytelling elements for educational purposes. Some details are fictionalized, but the lessons and messages are entirely valuable. If this style isn't for you, that's okay. Please seek content that better suits your needs.